So we're at the front of the jet, and what I'm going to do is mount my UATs right here. I'm going to be using these T1 models UATs, and in order to mount them, I made these brackets. They're 3D printed with an M3 insert right there, and that's how the UAT is going to get attached. So basically, one arm's going to slip into the spacer right there, and the other gets screwed down, and that's going to allow the UAT to be removable. As you can see on this side, 2 screws out, and then this whole thing can slip out. It's harder to get screws on the opposite sides, which is why I opted for that collar for them to slide under. Fuel pump setup, and figured out where the fuel pumps are going to go. So you can see the Velcro piece that I have right in there. And so in terms of where in the jet that is, sort of right under this section here. And that's great because there's accessibility. So it's literally going to sit right under here. So I can access it through there if I need to once these air intakes are taken out. Or I can go, as you see here, from the top. So 1 pump each side. They're going to be mounted like that with Velcro and secured down. Wire wrapping everything. That's important. And then we're going to set that down. The UATs are ready. And again, so it's going to be a nice short run from the pumps, which are going to be sitting right where the black Velcro is, to the UAT, and then from here back to the pumps. So straightforward. Plumbing is almost done. I decided to put my fuel valves under here. I'm still debating if I want to leave them there, and the reason is because so the way this works is we put the cover on like that, and it pretty much just stays kind of fit in here, and it's very easy to pull in and out. So that's how the cover stays, keeps everything hidden, and it's held by, I changed the design so it's held by a lip here and the sides of this. So the only reason I'm thinking about this is because in case I have an emergency or something like that, I don't have, I have to lift the air brake. That takes time, and meanwhile I need access to, the fuel valves. Might not be great, but at least one of the things that I can do is shut off the pumps because the batteries are all the way in the front, so I could do that. So anyway, I'm rethinking that. But in terms of how everything has come out, UATs are all plumbed. So here's one of them, and the other one is right there. And everything has been run forward, so we have all these wires that are going forward now. And they're gonna end up somewhere over here. I need to figure out, based on CG, where that will be. So there we are. So the wiring is pretty much done. I've shown this before, so you could see in there we have all of our controls and the smooth flight right there, and all the wires that need to be run forward have been run forward on both sides of the jet, and they terminate sort of right here, and the battery plate is actually going to sit on top right here. And so I've labeled all my connections, as you can see, so I know what goes where. And the important thing is that battery chemistries that have the same voltage have the same connectors, because I'm not worried about unplugging batteries in the wrong order. So you can see the 3S for the afterburner and the gear on this jet, those have different plugs, and everything that's 2S is pretty much matched. So the smooth flight turbine I'm using, Chikoi X132s, all of those guys have been labeled correctly. Finishing touch. So here's the top plate, and you can see all of those connections on the bottom, again with the correct plugs, and this is where the battery is going to plug in. And the way I chose to do this is because the batteries are going to plug in here, these ends, as soon as this is plugged in, these ends are live. And so I like to make those female, and then the opposing sides, I guess, will be the receptacle. This is a plug side. That way it's just harder to short by getting things in there as opposed to the other side. So you can see here that the pins kind of stick out and things can get in there and short things out. So I like that to be the end that's receiving the power, and this to be the end that is actually sending the power. So anyway, so we're gonna attach this guy and then we'll show you the final result. So here's how the battery tray finally shakes out, and you can see how it's pretty easy to plug in batteries. So you just grab that, stick that in there, 3S, stick that in there, and so forth and so on. And it's I think a pretty clean setup from that perspective. And since I'm using smooth flight, obviously nothing turns on until the switch, which is conveniently hidden under here, is enabled, and that turns everything on.